Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in. This is Arirang News and I'm Laah Hyun-kyung in Seoul. These are the headlines at this hour. In the second day of a parliamentary interpellation session, lawmakers grilled the government about snowballing household debt and the growing income gap between the rich and the poor. And staying with the subject of the economy, with President Park Geun-hye having entered her third year in office, we take a look at what kinds of challenges lie ahead for her in reviving the economy. And the FBI arrests 3 men in New York on suspicions that they tried to join the militant group calling itself Islamic State. One of the suspects allegedly even offered to kill the U.S. president. But first, we begin at the National Assembly, where lawmakers are firing questions at the government on the second day of a 3-day interpellation session. Today, a dozen lawmakers from both political camps are asking questions on the Park administration's economic policies for tackling pressing issues such as skyrocketing household debt, a 3-year tax deficit, deepening income polarization, and the stagnant economy. In the hot seat is the newly sworn-in Prime Minister Lee Won-gu and 6 government officials who oversee the economy-related ministries, including finance, trade, and science. Now, the session will continue until Friday, and the last day's focus will be on social and cultural issues. Now, continuing our 3-part series on what's ahead for President Park's third year in office, today we are going to focus on the economy. Not only the government, but many analysts had been saying structural reforms are indispensable in reviving Korea's economy. Here's Arirang's Hwang Ji-hye, who talks about the administration's economic success and the challenges that lie ahead.
In her first 2 years in office, President Park Geun-hye put much emphasis on revitalizing the flagging domestic economy. As a result, Korea managed to keep up with the growth pace of the world economy, while the employment rate reached 65% for the first time last year. The government's strong drive to boost the housing market also led to the number of home transactions to top 1 million in 2014, the largest in 8 years. Despite the improving economic figures, many are not feeling the difference. A recent survey shows that more than 9 out of 10 Koreans say the domestic economy has fallen into a state of depression. It's not surprising, says Shin Min-young from LG Economic Research Institute.
The structural problems that the economy is facing, like growing household debt and sluggish corporate investment, make it harder for ordinary people to feel the benefits of government stimulus measures that have a temporary impact on the economy.
The government has pledged to carry out structural reforms this year, focusing on the labor, education, financial, and public sectors. It's a welcomed move, but experts say some sectors need more attention.
The most important thing to achieve long-term growth is reforming the public sector. To be specific, reforms in the public servants' pension program should take place early this year so that it won't hurt the country's fiscal health.
They add that it's also critical to resolve the divide between regular and non-regular workers in order to increase flexibility in the labor market. And to push through such structural reforms this year, experts say that the government should ensure the related parties have a full understanding of their importance. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, President Park welcomed the Czech Prime Minister at her office earlier today, expressing hope that the two countries would strengthen their ties this year as it marks the 25th anniversary of diplomatic relations. This year is also the 70th anniversary of the division of the two Koreas. Referencing to the milestone, President Park emphasized that the significance of Prime Minister Bohuslav Sobaka's visit as his country achieved economic development after a regime change. The Czech leader, highlighting the two sides' close cultural ties and historical similarities, said he had high hopes for current efforts to elevate Seoul and Prague's relations to a strategic partnership. Now, President Park is set to make a trip to the Middle East next week, and when she goes, she will be accompanied by the biggest business delegation so far. Korea's Trade Ministry says nearly 120 business people and representatives of economic organizations will fly to Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Qatar. Construction affiliates of large conglomerates like Samsung, Hyundai, and GS will seek to win business opportunities in mega projects like the 2022 Qatar World Cup and Dubai Expo, while smaller companies will seek to enter the finance, medical, and IT sectors in tandem with other businesses in the region that are expanding outside of the oil industry. In the year 2012, for Korea was at its record high.
All of the day's important events close to home and around the world. Join Laah Hyun-kyung live from Seoul.
Shopping market thinks the true meaning of creation shines through.
And in the U.S., 3 men, all residents of New York, have been arrested on charges that they tried to join and support the Islamic State militant group. Officials say the probe was initiated by an online post. Here's Arirang's Kim Min-ji with the details.
3 men from Brooklyn have been arrested and charged with conspiring to support the Islamic State group. Authorities said Akbar Saeed Akhmetov was arrested as he was getting ready to board a flight to Turkey from John F. Kennedy International Airport, planning to go to Syria early Wednesday. The second man, Abdurasul Jurabov, was scheduled to follow him next month. The third suspect, Abror Habibov, who is the oldest of the 3, is believed to have helped finance their travels.
So the initial actions were effectively to go to Syria and attempt to join ISIL in Syria.
The 2 younger suspects appeared in court in New York on Wednesday, while the third faced a judge in Florida. They came to the attention of federal agents in recent months after one of them posted messages on an Uzbek language website expressing support for the extremist group. A criminal complaint showed that he also offered to kill the U.S. president if ordered to do so, as well as carry out attacks in the U.S. if he was unable to go to Syria. He repeated those very sentiments when federal agents interviewed him at his home in August last year. If convicted, each face a maximum sentence of 15 years behind bars. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
And following reports of a Korean teenager joining IS, Korea is planning to send officials to countries bordering Syria as early as next month. And this is to prevent Korean nationals illegally entering the country with the possibility of joining Islamic State militants. For more, here's Arirang's Connie Kim.
Korea is beefing up efforts to prevent another citizen from illegally crossing into Syria, the base for the Islamic State militant group. Seoul's foreign ministry said Wednesday that a plan is in the works to possibly send officials to countries bordering Syria in order to check on the safety of Korean residents and companies in the Middle East. They may also seek cooperation on border security. The alarming move comes amid growing security concerns in the region as extremist groups have become more violent in recent months. It also comes on the heels of new intelligence that confirmed a Korean teenager who went missing in Turkey last month is in fact receiving training from IS. He reportedly entered via a Syria-Turkey border town. And to prevent such illegal crossings, Seoul has requested countries on its travel ban list to strengthen their border controls. As of now, Syria, Iraq, Libya, Somalia, Afghanistan, and Yemen are on Korea's travel ban list. But the government's efforts don't stop there. Korea's travel agencies have also been advised not to sell tour packages to countries near Syria to keep citizens from being targeted by terrorist groups. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
A U.S. expert says North Korea's nuclear and missile threat is a lethal danger that continues to grow unconstrained. Van Jackson, a visiting fellow at the Center for a New American Society, says the size of Pyongyang's nuclear arsenal is unclear, but the regime is moving in the direction of establishing a, quote, survivable nuclear capacity. He said nothing in U.S. policy today suggests North Korea's nuclear progress will be halted. He also said while a diplomatic solution might still be possible, Washington and its allies must be prepared for what he calls political military realities. As for who Jackson is, he served as an advisor for Asia-Pacific strategy at the Office of the Secretary of Defense until last year. And staying on the topic of North Korea, a North Korean shipping company subject to UN sanctions has reportedly renamed most of its vessels to continue its illicit activities. In its latest report, the UN Security Council's sanctions monitoring body said Pyongyang changed the registration and ownership for 13 vessels of a North Korean company called the Ocean Maritime Management Company. The firm was blacklisted last July for allegedly smuggling arms in and out of Cuba. The UN banned North Korea from trading arms as well as nuclear and missile technology in the wake of its nuclear tests and missile launches. Now, China is Korea's biggest trading partner, but there's been one Korean item, a very symbolic one for that matter, that wasn't easily allowed into the world's second biggest market. Arirang's Song Ji-sun tells us what that item is and what kind of changes may come ahead.
China's Health Commission has announced that it will revise regulations applied to salted or pickled vegetable imports. Previously, the rules only allowed fewer than 30 E. coli counts per 100 grams, but it will now allow a count of up to 8,000 E. coli counts. Kimchi, Korea's fermented dish, rich in lactic acid bacteria, could not meet the old regulation, but it will be acceptable under the new rules. The only kimchi allowed to enter the Chinese market until now were fried or sautéed varieties, processes which sterilize the bacteria. Over the past couple of years, Seoul has been demanding Beijing set up a separate guideline for the kimchi or ease the standard applied to fermented food. In the meantime, Chinese kimchi imports to Korea surged to over $70 million in 2013, with an annual average of 200,000 tons used by large restaurants and catering services. While most kimchi factories in China are run by Koreans, Chinese kimchi is quickly taking over Korean tables as it is 5 times cheaper than Korean-produced kimchi. The Korean staple is classified as an extremely sensitive item in the recently agreed free trade deal between Seoul and Beijing. Its current 20% tariff will be reduced to 18% with the pact, further eroding the price competition between the Korean and Chinese produce. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
Korea's plastic card spending grew at the slowest pace in almost a year last month, while domestic consumption remains sluggish. The Credit Finance Association says purchases made with credit and debit cards stood at over $44 billion in January, up merely 3.1% from a year ago. The yearly growth rate reached 9% in January 2014. Now, the association attributed the slowdown to the Lunar New Year holiday that fell in February this year, unlike last year when it took place in January. The not-so-wild guess in the mobile payment industry of late is that global tech giants are racing to develop their own payment services. One in the race is Google, which is said to be planning on announcing a new payment method called Android Pay this spring. Arirang's Kim Ji-yeon has the story.
Gone are the days of paying for things with cash or plastic. Your smartphone will soon pay for whatever you need. Google is reportedly going to announce a new payment method called Android Pay in May to boost its Google Wallet platform. Android Pay is expected to allow users to upload their credit or debit card information to the app for single-tap transactions. Ars Technica reports this will make it easier for third-party apps to use a near-field communication chip that's installed on Android phones. This is Google's latest attempt to rival Apple Pay, launched last October equipped with fingerprint verification technology. Instead of punching in a PIN number, users press the iPhone home button while placing the device on a reader. To develop a similar contactless payment method, Google acquired SoftCard, a mobile payment app jointly created by major U.S. wireless carriers AT&T, Verizon Wireless, and T-Mobile USA. With the acquisition, Android phones sold by the 3 wireless carriers will pre-install the Google mobile payment system starting later this year. The U.S. search giant is expected to make the installation of the app mandatory for all Android phones sold in the U.S., a move that's sure to annoy Samsung Electronics, which is pushing for its own mobile payment service. The Korean tech giant is expected to feature what's tentatively being called Samsung Pay on its upcoming Galaxy S6 smartphone next month. The company's vice chairman Lee Jae-yong met recently with Peter Phil, the co-founder of the online money transfer company PayPal. Although the meeting was disclosed, various reports say the two discussed the Korean tech giant's strategy and financial technology. Their meeting comes a week after Samsung Electronics acquired LuPay, a U.S.-based mobile payments technology startup, indicating its own ambitions in the realm of contactless payments. U.S.-based market tracker Forrester researcher estimates that the global mobile payment market will grow $200 billion annually to more than $900 billion in 2017. Kim Jeon, Arirang News.
Well, this is one of the most requested productions from 2014, and now it's being restaged here in Seoul. Our Im Yoon-hee joins us today with the details. Good afternoon, Yoon-hee.
Good afternoon. So the play, The Glass Menagerie, was written by Tennessee Williams and premiered in Chicago in the U.S. in 1944. Well, last year it showed here in Korea and was such a huge success that they've brought it back this year. Take a look.
The Great Depression has ended, but their woes are just getting started. Amanda's been abandoned by her husband, and she struggles to raise her son Tom and his mentally fragile sister Laura. Tennessee Williams' memory play, The Glass Menagerie, looks at the unspoken problems of one family. A family that quickly realizes that life is as fragile as glass and can shatter in the blink of an eye.
There is very poor family communication here. Even if we're talking, we can't express our bottled up inner feelings, especially Laura, but also my character and our son. We only look at things through our own point of view, and the way to solve each of our unhappiness differs from character to character. For my character, I'm obsessed with my past, but also with my kids as well. And strangely, while playing this role, I was reminded of today's Korean mothers.
Everything is askew. Not only is the family struggling to stay emotionally afloat, but there is something not quite right about the stage as well. Every movement and each word adds on to the tension, slowly but surely building on the cricket stage. The play flashes back to the memories of Tom and his past encounters with his sister and mother, each conversation, each incident revealing more and more about the fragile state of the family.
While the play goes on, Tom continues to show the story of himself from 10 years past, but he also shows his present self as well. So within his self-conscious, there are two Toms. To help define this aspect of Tom's character, we added a cello that plays along with his narrations. The original production doesn't include a cello, but we feel it adds emotion and tension to his alter ego.
But what happens when there's just too much pressure? The tension is seen, heard, and even felt as Tom goes back in time, to memories still fresh in his mind. He goes back to a time before the glass shattered, back to their glass menagerie.
So that play is being performed in Korean, but you were telling me earlier that there's an English version, not as an English production, but people, foreigners can also enjoy this play.
Right, so there is an English option. They are offering English subtitles for a select number of performances. That'll be this Friday as well as next Friday. Night, and you can catch it at the Myeongdong Theater. But if you do see the English subtitle option, I really highly recommend you pay close attention to the actors and their gestures and their motions, because for this particular performance, it plays a huge role in the overall experience and the overall message that the play really conveys to the audience.
Right, and the play also has some legendary actresses. For example, Kim Sung-yeon. I'm a huge fan of Kim Sung-yeon.
Oh, are you? Well, she's a highly decorated actress. She's actually an overall just a great artist. She's the artistic director for the National Changga Company of Korea as well. But here she does such a great performance, and I'm sure if you have time to go check it out, I highly recommend it. She really does pour her heart into it, and she's commended for that as well.
Right, and in one of the interviews that she gives, she does say that she was reminded of Korean mothers, so that's perhaps why this play is doing so well in Korea.
Right. So she plays the role of the mother, and she was mentioning that this particular character, her character in the play, she's very obsessed with her children, and that, she said, kind of resembled to her, the Korean mothers nowadays, how they are just so into their children's lives, and so that kind of echoes, I think, to the audience, and they kind of see that, and they kind of take a step back and realize, wow, this kind of resembles the Korean mothers as well, so that's possibly why it's been so popular with the audiences here.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Yoon-hee, for today's report.
You're very welcome.
Hello, I'm Michelle Park here with the latest weather forecast. We are nearly at the end of February, and today the last bit of winter cold is here all across the country. And compared to yesterday, temperatures have gone down 3 to 4 degrees in general, and with the strong wind blowing at 4 meters per second, you will feel about 4 degrees colder than the actual readings. Now, we are expecting colder morning tomorrow, dropping down way below freezing with stronger winds than expected. But after that, we have a mild weekend ahead of us, with temperatures making their way up above the seasonal average. Now, besides the cold, we have scattered clouds on Jeju Island and some regions down south, but we are mostly under clear, sunny skies nationwide. Now, let's have a look at the readings for today. Seoul will peak up to 4 this afternoon, while Gwangju and Busan will top to 8 and 14. Now to other regions, Jeju Island gets up to 11, Dokdo hits down to 10, while Mount Kumgang is sunny at -5 degrees. That's all for now. Michelle Park, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
Now, this just coming in, tobacco companies in Korea will likely now be forced to cover more than half of the surface of their cigarette packs with graphic warning messages and pictures showing the harmful effects of smoking. Now, this revision has just passed the National Assembly's Welfare and Health Committee. It still faces a plenary level vote, but if it gets the green light, tobacco firms found to be breaking the rules would face monetary fines of up to $9,000 US. And we still have a plenary vote That's unscheduled for now, but we will deliver you more on this developing story as information becomes available. Now, that's a wrap from us at this hour. I'm Laah Hyun-kyung in Seoul. We'll be back with more updates at 4 p.m. Korea time.